First contact and cultural exchange. The vast expanse of space had always beckoned to humanity, a silent challenge that whispered of endless possibilities. For centuries, humans had gazed at the stars, wondering if they were alone in the universe. On a crisp autumn morning in 2047, that age-old question was finally answered. The first sign of extraterrestrial life came not with a bang, but with a gentle pulse of radio waves detected by the Square Kilometre Array in South Africa. At first, the astronomers thought it was a glitch, a random burst of cosmic noise. But as they analyzed the data, their excitement grew. The signal was too structured, too precise to be natural. It was a message, and it was aimed directly at Earth. Dr. Samantha Chen, the lead researcher at the SKA, could barely contain her excitement as she called an emergency meeting of the International Astronomical Union. "Colleagues," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "we are not alone." The news spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to respond, religious leaders sought to reconcile their beliefs with this new reality, and the public alternated between excitement and fear. But amidst the chaos, a plan began to form. Earth would respond, and humanity would step onto the galactic stage. It took months of careful preparation and heated debate before Earth's reply was ready. A message of peace and curiosity, translated into mathematical constants that they hoped would be universally understood. They sent it out into the void and waited. The response came faster than anyone had anticipated. Within weeks, a sleek, silver ship appeared in orbit around Earth. It was unlike anything humans had ever built, smooth, seamless, and utterly silent. The ship's arrival sent waves of awe and trepidation around the globe. A delegation was hastily assembled. Dr. Chen, now hailed as the person who had first detected the alien signal, was an obvious choice. Joining her were diplomats, linguists, and a handful of world leaders. They ascended to the alien ship with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The interior of the ship was a marvel of technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Surfaces shimmered with holographic displays, and gravity shifted subtly as they moved through the corridors. Their alien hosts, when they finally appeared, were equally astonishing. The Zarquin, as they called themselves, were tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that seemed to ripple with colors. They had 4 arms and large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the light like living gemstones. Despite their alien appearance, there was an unmistakable intelligence in their gaze. Communication was initially challenging, but the Zarquin's advanced technology helped bridge the gap. Within hours, rudimentary translation was possible, and the exchange of information began in earnest. The Zarquin, it turned out, were part of a vast galactic community. Hundreds of species spread across thousands of worlds, linked by a network of faster-than-light travel and communication. Earth, in their eyes, was a primitive backwater, barely worth noticing until now. "We have watched your kind for some time," the Zarquin ambassador, Xylos, explained. "Your progress has been interesting, if somewhat erratic." Dr. Chen, her scientific curiosity overriding her awe, couldn't help but ask, "What made you decide to contact us now?" Xylos's skin rippled with what might have been amusement. "You reached a tipping point. Your understanding of quantum mechanics and your experiments with fusion energy suggested you might be ready for broader horizons." The implications were staggering. Humanity was being offered a chance to join a galactic civilization, to leap forward technologically by centuries, perhaps millennia. But there were conditions. "We must evaluate your species," Xylos continued. "Determine if you are ready for the responsibilities that come with such knowledge." And so began a series of tests and cultural exchanges. The Zarquin presented problems, scientific, ethical, and logical challenges that they claimed were standard for assessing new species. Humanity, in turn, did its best to rise to the occasion. Some of the challenges were straightforward. Mathematical proofs and engineering problems that, while difficult, were solvable with Earth's current level of technology. Others were more abstract, dealing with complex moral dilemmas or requiring leaps of logic that stretched human minds to their limits. But it was in the unconventional challenges that humanity began to shine. When presented with a physics problem that had stumped some of the greatest minds in the galaxy, a team of human scientists approached it not with advanced technology, but with a thought experiment involving cats in boxes. The Zarquin were baffled by the methodology, but couldn't argue with the results. In another instance, when tasked with designing a new form of propulsion, a group of human engineers came up with a solution that involved using the pressure of light itself. It was inefficient by Zarquin standards, but it worked in ways they hadn't considered possible with Earth's level of technology. As the days turned into weeks, the Zarquin found themselves increasingly puzzled by their human guests. The humans were inconsistent, often irrational, and prone to leaps of intuition that defied logical explanation. Yet, time and again, they managed to find solutions that worked, even if the path to those solutions was unconventional. "Your species is perplexing," Xylos admitted to Dr. Chen one day. "You lack the mental discipline of the Volcran, the logical rigor of the Meleth, yet you solve problems in ways we struggle to understand." Dr. Chen smiled. "We have a saying on Earth: necessity is the mother of invention. Throughout our history, we've had to adapt, to find creative solutions with limited resources. It's led us to approach problems from angles others might not consider." Xylos's skin flickered with colors that the translation software interpreted as a mix of confusion and intrigue. "But surely, with proper education and access to advanced technology, you would adopt more efficient methods." "Perhaps," Shen replied. "But I think you'd find that humans would always retain that spark of creativity, that willingness to try the unconventional. It's part of who we are." As the evaluation period neared its end, the Zarquin were left with a dilemma. By many of their standard metrics, humanity was not ready for integration into the galactic community. Earth's technology was centuries behind, its societies still fractured and prone to conflict. Yet there was undeniably potential there, a creativity and adaptability that could not be ignored. In a historic moment, broadcast to every corner of the Earth, Xylos delivered the Zarquin's decision. "People of Earth," the alien ambassador began, its voice translated into hundreds of human languages simultaneously. "We have observed your species, tested your capabilities, and debated your readiness for inclusion in the greater galactic community." Billions held their breath, watching on screens large and small, united in this moment of anticipation. "Your species is young," Xylos continued. "In many ways, you are still learning to crawl, while others in our community soar among the stars. Your technology is primitive, your societies fragmented. By many of our traditional metrics, you would not be considered ready for the knowledge and responsibilities that come with joining our ranks." The collective sense of disappointment began to sweep across the Earth, but Xylos wasn't finished. However, the ambassador's skin rippled with new colors. "We have also seen in you a potential that we cannot ignore. Your creativity, your ability to find unconventional solutions to complex problems, your adaptability in the face of challenges. These are qualities that may well serve not just your species, but our entire community in the times to come." Hope began to replace disappointment as Xylos continued. "It is therefore the decision of the Zarquin, and by extension, the Galactic Council, to offer humanity a probationary membership in our community. You will be granted limited access to our knowledge and technology, with the opportunity to earn greater privileges as you prove yourselves ready." The announcement was met with a global outpouring of joy and excitement. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger universe. But even as celebrations erupted around the world, Dr. Chen and her colleagues knew that the real work was just beginning. In the months that followed, Earth became a hive of activity. Zarquin advisors worked alongside human scientists and engineers, guiding the careful integration of alien technology into Earth's infrastructure. The effects were revolutionary. Clean energy sources began to replace fossil fuels, Medical breakthroughs extended human lifespans and cured once intractable diseases, and the first faster-than-light communication arrays were established, connecting Earth to the broader galactic network. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural clashes were inevitable as humanity struggled to adapt to its new reality. Some feared that Earth would lose its unique identity, becoming just another homogenized world in a vast galactic empire. Others embraced the changes wholeheartedly, eager to leave behind what they saw as primitive ways of thinking. Through it all, it was often humanity's unconventional approaches that helped bridge the gaps. When traditional diplomatic protocols failed to resolve a dispute between Earth and a neighboring alien world, it was a team of human negotiators who suggested resolving the conflict through a series of cultural exchanges and collaborative art projects. The idea seemed ludicrous to the Zarquin, but it worked, fostering understanding and cooperation where formal talks had failed. As the first year of Earth's probationary membership drew to a close, Phylos met again with Dr. Chen. The Zarquin ambassador's skin shimmered with a complex pattern that Chen had learned to associate with deep thought. "Your people continue to surprise us," Phylos said. "We had anticipated a longer period of adjustment, more resistance to change. Instead, you've embraced this new reality with an enthusiasm that is both admirable and slightly concerning." Chen laughed. "We've dreamed of this moment for centuries, Phylos. The idea that we're not alone in the universe, that there's so much more to learn and explore. It's intoxicating for many of us." "Indeed," Phylos replied, "but I fear you may not fully grasp the challenges that lie ahead. The galaxy is vast, and not all species share our peaceful intentions. There are threats out there that your people are ill-prepared to face." Chen's expression grew serious. "What kind of threats?" Phylos's colors darkened. "That, Dr. Chen, is a discussion for another time. For now, celebrate your achievements, but know that the true test of humanity's readiness is yet to come." As Phylos left, Chen couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, but what dangers lurked among the stars? Only time would tell if Earth's unique approach to problem-solving would be enough to face the challenges ahead. The galactic threat emerges. 5 years had passed since humanity's introduction to the galactic community. Earth had undergone a transformation that would have seemed miraculous just a decade ago. Gleaming spires of alien alloys stretched into the sky, while personal anti-gravity devices had revolutionized transportation. The first human colonies on Mars and Europa were thriving, and Earth's first faster-than-light ship, the ESS Curiosity, was preparing for its maiden voyage. But beneath the sheen of progress, tensions were brewing. Not everyone was happy with the rapid pace of change. Some feared that humanity was losing its identity, becoming too dependent on alien technology. Others argued that the Zarquin and the Galactic Council were holding humanity back, doling out knowledge in carefully measured doses. Dr. Samantha Chen, now Earth's primary liaison to the Galactic Council, found herself at the center of these debates. She was in her office at the newly constructed Terran Space Agency headquarters in Geneva when the first reports came in. "Dr. Chen," her eye assistant's voice was unnaturally urgent, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. It's marked as highest importance." Chen frowned. In 5 years, she'd never received a message with that level of urgency. "Put it through," she said, bracing herself for whatever was to come. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing not just Phylos, but a panel of alien faces she recognized as the leading members of the Galactic Council. Their expressions, even on faces so alien, were grim. "Dr. Chen," Phylos began, its skin a dull, worried gray, "we face a crisis of unprecedented scale. A hostile force has emerged from the unknown regions of the galaxy. They call themselves the Void Heralds, and they seek nothing less than the eradication of all sentient life." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Eradication. But why? Another counselor, a crystalline being known as Zixlith, spoke up. "Their motives are unclear, but their methods are devastating. They possess technology far beyond even our most advanced civilizations. Already, 3 systems have fallen to their onslaught. "My God," Chen whispered, "what can we do to help?" There was an uncomfortable silence before Xylos responded. "We appreciate your offer, Dr. Chen. But Earth is still considered a probationary member of the galactic community. Your technology, despite recent advancements, is centuries behind what we're facing. We fear involving your people would only lead to needless loss of life." Chen felt a surge of frustration. But surely there must be something we can contribute. Our unique perspective, our problem-solving abilities. "We understand your eagerness to assist," interrupted Vralkar, a hulking insectoid being. "But this is not a time for untested theories or risky experiments. We need proven technologies and battle-tested strategies." The meeting continued, with the Council outlining their plans for a unified defense. Earth, along with other developing worlds, was to be kept out of the conflict for its own protection. As the transmission ended, Chen sat back, her mind reeling from the implications. Over the next few weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. News filtered through the galactic networks of world after world falling to the Void Heralds. The Galactic Council's forces seemed powerless against the invaders' advanced technology. On Earth, the mood shifted from excitement about the future to fear of the unknown. The public demanded action, insisting that humanity shouldn't sit idly by while the galaxy burned. Protests erupted outside Zarquin embassies, with signs reading, "Let Earth fight," and "Humanity united against the void." In a bold move, the United Earth government decided to act, with or without the Council's blessing. The ESS Curiosity, loaded with Earth's brightest scientists and most advanced, by human standards, technology, set off towards the front lines of the conflict. Dr. Chen found herself aboard the Curiosity, part diplomat, part scientific advisor. As they approached the battle-scarred Proxima Centauri system, the ship picked up a distress signal from a Zarquin cruiser under attack. "We're detecting multiple Void Herald ships," the Curiosity's tactical officer reported. "The Zarquin cruiser's defenses are failing." Captain Elena Rodriguez, a veteran of Earth's old naval forces, set her jaw. "We're going in. Prepare for combat operations." As they closed in, the crew of the Curiosity got their first look at a Void Herald ship. It was a monstrous thing, all sharp angles and pulsing dark energy. It dwarfed the Zarquin cruiser, which was itself many times larger than the human vessel. "My God," Chen breathed. "How are we supposed to fight that?" But Captain Rodriguez was already in action. "Deploy our EMP warheads. Target their primary energy signatures." The human weapon streaked across space, detonating in a flash of electromagnetic energy. To everyone's surprise, the Void Herald ship's movements became erratic. Its energy weapons sputtered and died. "It worked," Chen exclaimed. "But how? Their technology should be too advanced for such a simple attack." Rodriguez finished with a grim smile. "Sometimes the old ways are the best. Comms, signal the Zarquin cruiser. Let's get them out of here before more of those things show up." As they escorted the damaged Zarquin ship to safety, Chen couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and concern. They had won this skirmish, but the Void Heralds would undoubtedly adapt. And there was no telling how the Galactic Council would react to Earth's unsanctioned intervention. The reaction came swifter than expected. As soon as they docked with a Galactic Council station, the crew of the Curiosity found themselves surrounded by armed guards. They were escorted to a hastily convened council meeting, where the atmosphere was tense. Xylos, its skin flickering between shades of anger and concern, addressed them. "You were expressly told to stay out of this conflict. Your actions could have resulted in a diplomatic incident, not to mention the loss of your ship and crew." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "With all due respect, Ambassador, we couldn't stand by and watch your people be slaughtered. Not when we had the means to help." "Help?" scoffed Vralkar. "Your primitive weapons should have been useless against Void Herald technology. You're lucky you weren't destroyed the moment you engaged. It was Dr. Chen who answered. That primitive technology is exactly why we were effective. The Void Heralds, for all their advancement, weren't prepared for something as simple as an electromagnetic pulse. Sometimes, the simplest solution is the one your enemy least expects. A murmur ran through the assembled counselors. Zixlith's crystalline form sparkled as it spoke. An interesting theory. But one success against a single ship doesn't change the overall strategic situation. The Void Heralds are still overwhelming our defenses across multiple sectors. Then let us help, Chen pleaded. Not just with our technology, but with our perspective. Humanity has a long history of facing seemingly insurmountable odds. We've developed ways of thinking, of approaching problems, that might just give us an edge. The council chambers erupted into debate. Some counselors were intrigued by the potential of human ingenuity, while others dismissed the idea as desperate folly. In the end, it was Tylos who silenced the room. We find ourselves in an unprecedented situation, the Zarquin ambassador said slowly. Our most advanced weapons and strategies are failing. Perhaps it is time to consider unconventional alternatives. Over the next few days, human scientists and strategists were brought into the heart of the Galactic Council's war effort. They pored over reports of Void Herald attacks, analyzed their technology, and proposed counter-strategies. Some of their ideas were dismissed outright. Others showed promise but needed refinement. But it was a proposal from an unlikely source that would change the course of the war. Jayesh Patel was a sanitation engineer from Mumbai who had been part of Earth's second wave of volunteers. He had been listening to the scientists and military strategists argue when something clicked. "Excuse me," he said, his voice barely audible over the heated debate. When no one listened, he stood up and shouted, "Excuse me." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to the unassuming man in coveralls. Jayesh swallowed hard but pressed on. I think I might have an idea, but you're all going to think it's stupid." Dr. Chen, recognizing the spark of inspiration, encouraged him. "Go on, Jayesh. At this point, we need all the ideas we can get." Jayesh nodded, took a deep breath, and began to explain. As he spoke, the expressions in the room ranged from confusion to disbelief to, in a few cases, dawning excitement. When he finished, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then the room erupted again, this time in a cacophony of objections and questions. "That's preposterous. It could never work on that scale. Where would we even begin to implement such a thing?" But Dr. Chen was watching Xylos, whose skin was cycling through colors she'd never seen before. The Zarquin ambassador raised all four of its arms, calling for silence. "It is," Xylos said slowly, "without a doubt, the most absurd proposal I have heard in all my cycles." The ambassador paused, its multifaceted eyes gleaming. "And yet, I cannot find a reason why it wouldn't work." Vrulkar chittered in disbelief. "Surely you're not considering this madness." "Our conventional approaches have failed," Xylos countered. "Perhaps madness is exactly what we need." And so, against all odds and in the face of considerable skepticism, the Galactic Council agreed to pursue Jayesh Patel's plan. Resources were allocated, ships were reproposed, and a great secret project began. As preparations got underway, Dr. Chen found a moment alone with Jayesh. The sanitation engineer looked overwhelmed by the sudden attention his idea had garnered. "How did you come up with it?" Chen asked gently. Jayesh shrugged. I was thinking about how we deal with waste back home, how we've had to get creative with limited resources, and then I thought about all this advanced technology, and I wondered, what if we approached this like a really, really big garbage problem?" Chen laughed, a sound of both amusement and admiration. "Jayesh, you might have just saved the galaxy with a garbage solution." As they looked out at the bustling activity of the station, ships coming and going as the grand plan took shape, Chen couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and trepidation. Humanity had been thrust onto the galactic stage in a way no one could have predicted. Their stupid weapon was about to be deployed against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The question now was, would it be enough? Or had the Galactic Council just pinned its hopes on the equivalent of a galactic trash compactor? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. The Void Heralds were about to face something they had never encountered before. The full force of human ingenuity, with all its brilliant absurdity. Humanity's unusual solution. The Galactic Council's war room buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed the relentless advance of the Void Heralds across star systems, each lost world represented by a dimming light. In the center of the room, surrounded by aliens of various species, stood Jayesh Patel, looking both nervous and determined. "Run us through it one more time," Vralkar demanded, its mandibles clicking with impatience. Jayesh took a deep breath and began. "Right. So we know the Void Herald ships are powered by some kind of dark energy reactor. It's what makes them so powerful, but it's also their weakness. They're constantly drawing in and expelling exotic particles as part of their propulsion and weapon systems." He gestured to a holographic model of a Void Herald ship. "What if we could clog their systems? Like hair in a drain, but on a cosmic scale." The room filled with murmurs. Dr. Chen stepped forward to support Jayesh. "We're proposing to create a specialized form of matter. Let's call it cosmic lint, for simplicity's sake. It would be designed to be attracted to the specific energy signature of the Void Herald's technology." Xylos, its skin shimmering with cautious interest, asked, "And how would this cosmic lint affect their ships?" Jayesh's confidence grew as he explained. It would accumulate in their intake systems, disrupting the flow of exotic particles. At first, it would just reduce their efficiency. But as it builds up, it could completely shut down their reactors. "No power, no weapons, no shields." "Preposterous," scoffed a Meloth scientist. "The energy output of their reactors would vaporize any normal matter." "That's where the brilliance of Jayesh's idea comes in," Dr. Chen countered. "We're not talking about normal matter. We're proposing to create a new form of metamaterial, something that becomes more resistant to energy the more it's exposed to it." The explanation continued, delving into complex physics that stretched the limits of even the most advanced alien scientists' understanding. It was a plan that combined cutting-edge technology with an approach so simple it bordered on the absurd. As the briefing concluded, the room was divided. Some saw the potential in the plan, while others dismissed it as a desperate gamble. In the end, it was Tylos who made the decisive argument. "We have tried conventional weapons and tactics," the Zarquin ambassador said. "We have deployed our most advanced technology. Nothing has worked. If we continue on this path, we face extinction. This plan, as unlikely as it seems, offers a glimmer of hope. I say we pursue it." With reluctance from some and enthusiasm from others, the Galactic Council voted to allocate resources to Project Cosmic Lint, as it was now unofficially known. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The finest minds from dozens of species worked alongside human scientists and engineers to bring Jayesh's concept to reality. Particle accelerators were reproposed, quantum forges worked overtime, and new forms of matter were created and discarded in rapid succession. Dr. Chen found herself working closely with Jayesh and a diverse team of aliens. There were moments of frustration, cultural clashes, and seemingly insurmountable technical challenges. But there were also breakthroughs, moments of cross-species bonding, and flashes of inspiration that pushed the boundaries of known science. One particularly memorable moment came when they were struggling to stabilize the metamaterial. It kept breaking down under the intense energies they were subjecting it to. It was Kithrax, a gelatinous being from a heavy gravity world, who provided the solution. "In my world," Kithrax burbled, "we have creatures that become stronger when attacked. Perhaps we could imbue our material with a similar principle." This led to the integration of a biological component into the cosmic lint, creating a hybrid material that adapted and grew stronger in response to energy exposure. It was a breakthrough that nobody had anticipated, least of all the Galactic Council's conservative old guard. As the project progressed, news from the front lines grew increasingly dire. The Void Heralds had broken through the last major defensive line in the Orion Arm. Refugee ships from fallen worlds were pouring into safe systems, stretching resources to the breaking point. The window for action was rapidly closing. Finally, after what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, they were ready for a field test. A small fleet of ships, led by the ESS Curiosity, set out for a system recently conquered by the Void Heralds. Their mission: to deploy the first batch of cosmic lint and observe its effects. As they dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system, the scene that greeted them was chilling. The once vibrant world was now a lifeless husk, surrounded by the ominous shapes of Void Herald ships. Multiple contacts, the Curiosity's tactical officer reported, her voice tense. They've detected us. 3 ships are on an intercept course. Captain Rodriguez's voice was steady as she gave the order. Deploy the payload. All ships, prepare for evasive maneuvers. From the belly of each ship in the fleet, canisters were launched. To the naked eye, they seemed to contain nothing more than a fine, shimmering dust. But as this dust spread out into space, it began to move with purpose, drawn towards the approaching Void Herald ships. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Void Heralds continued their approach, their weapons charging. But then, almost imperceptibly, their movements began to slow. Energy readings from the lead ship are fluctuating, the science officer reported, excitement creeping into her voice. Their power output is dropping. On the main viewer, they watched as the cosmic lint swarmed around the Void Herald ships. It was being drawn into every opening, every energy vent. The ship's sleek surfaces began to look dull, as if covered in a layer of metallic fuzz. The lead Void Herald ship fired its main weapon, a beam of concentrated dark energy that had shattered planets, but the beam sputtered and died halfway to its target. Moments later, the ship's lights flickered and went out. A cheer went up on the bridge of the Curiosity. The impossible had happened. The cosmic lint had worked. But their celebration was short-lived. The other 2 Void Herald ships, though clearly affected, were still operational. They pressed their attack, forcing the Earth fleet to scatter. "We need more lint," Jay shouted, his eyes glued to the tactical display. "We didn't bring enough to fully neutralize multiple ships." Captain Rodriguez nodded grimly. Noted. "All ships, concentrate fire on the weakened targets. Let's finish this." What followed was a tense battle, with the Earth fleet darting in and out, deploying more cosmic lint and firing conventional weapons at the increasingly sluggish Void Herald ships. In the end, all 3 enemy vessels were neutralized, drifting powerless in space. As the adrenaline of battle faded, the true magnitude of what they had accomplished began to sink in. They had found a weapon that worked against the Void Heralds. It wasn't perfect. They would need much more of it, and a way to deploy it more efficiently. But it was a start. The journey back to Galactic Council space was tense. They had won a skirmish. But the war was far from over. How would the Council react? Would they fully commit to this strategy, or dismiss it as a fluke? As they approached the Council's headquarters, they were met by a fleet of ships from various species. For a moment, Dr. Chen feared they might be hostile. Had they violated some protocol by engaging the enemy? But then a transmission came through, and Xylos's familiar form appeared on screen. "Dr. Chen, Captain Rodriguez, Mr. Patel," the Zarquin ambassador said, its skin rippling with colors Chen had learned to associate with excitement and hope. "Your success has been noted. The Council awaits your full report with great anticipation." The debriefing that followed was intense. Every aspect of the mission was scrutinized, from the composition of the cosmic lint to the tactics used in deploying it. Scientists, military strategists, and politicians all had questions and concerns. But in the end, The results spoke for themselves. For the first time since the Void Heralds had appeared, the Galactic Council had a weapon that could effectively counter them. "We must move quickly," Vralkar insisted, its earlier skepticism replaced by urgent enthusiasm. "We need to produce this cosmic lint in vast quantities. Every ship in the galaxy must be equipped with it." The logistics were daunting. Creating the specialized metamaterial required rare elements and exotic processes. Deploying it effectively would require redesigning ships and developing new tactics. But compared to the alternative, the extinction of all sentient life, these were small obstacles. As the council debated the next steps, Dr. Chen found a quiet moment with Jayesh. The sanitation engineer looked overwhelmed, still struggling to process the magnitude of what his idea had accomplished. "How are you holding up?" Chen asked gently. Jayesh shook his head in disbelief. "A month ago, I was unclogging drains on a space station. Now they're talking about naming a galaxy-saving weapon after me. It's a lot." Chen smiled. "That's the thing about humanity, Jayesh. We never know where the next great idea will come from. A sanitation engineer today, a galactic hero tomorrow." Their conversation was interrupted by Xylos, who approached with an air of formality. "Mr. Patel, Dr. Chen, the Council has reached a decision. We are initiating a galaxy-wide effort to produce and deploy your cosmic lint. Moreover, we are extending an invitation to Earth to join the Galactic Council as a full member, effective immediately." The news was stunning. Earth, which just years ago had been seen as a primitive backwater, was now being offered a seat at the highest table in galactic politics. "There will be those who object," Tylos continued, its tone serious. "Many will say that humanity is not ready, that this decision is being made in the heat of the moment. They may be right, but your people have shown a creativity, an ability to think outside of established norms that may be crucial in the challenges ahead." As word of the Council's decision spread, reactions across Earth and the galaxy were mixed. Many celebrated this recognition of humanity's potential. Others, both human and alien, worried about the implications of such rapid advancement. But there was little time for extended debate. The Void Heralds were still out there, and now that humanity's weapon had proven effective, their retaliation would likely be swift and terrible. As production of cosmic lint ramped up and ships were retrofitted to deploy it, Dr. Chen couldn't shake a feeling of unease. They had won a battle, perhaps even turned the tide of the war. But at what cost? How would this rapid elevation change humanity's place in the galaxy? And what unforeseen consequences might their stupid weapon have in the long run? These questions would have to wait. For now, the galaxy had been given hope, and humanity had been thrust into a role it never expected. The saviors of galactic civilization, armed with little more than ingenuity and cosmic dust. The real test was yet to come. The Void Heralds would adapt. Of that there was no doubt. The question was, could humanity, and the galaxy at large, stay one step ahead? Unleashing the stupid weapon. The galaxy held its breath as the largest coordinated military operation in known history began. Ships from 100 different species, hastily retrofitted with cosmic lint deployers, moved into position. The plan was ambitious. A simultaneous strike against multiple Void Herald strongholds, aiming to cripple their ability to wage war. Dr. Samantha Chen found herself aboard the Galactic Council's flagship, the Stellar Concordance. The massive vessel dwarfed anything humanity had built, its corridors filled with a dizzying array of alien life forms, all united in purpose. Beside her stood Jayesh Patel, looking both awed and terrified by the responsibility that had been thrust upon him. His stupid idea had become the cornerstone of the galaxy's defense strategy. Now it was time to see if it could work on a grand scale. Final checks complete. A multi-limbed alien announced from a glowing console. All ships report ready for cosmic lint deployment. Supreme Commander Zixlith, its crystalline form pulsing with anticipation, gave a solemn nod. "Send the signal. May the stars guide us to victory." Across the vast expanse of space, thousands of ships activated their deployers. Clouds of shimmering dust billowed forth, quickly disappearing from visual range, but showing up as expanding webs of light on sensor displays. For several tense minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then reports began flooding in from all sectors. Void Herald ships in the Cygnus sector are showing reduced power signatures. Enemy fleet in Orion's arm is slowing, weapon systems offline. We're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Void Herald command ship in the Vega system. A cheer went up on the bridge of the stellar concordance. The cosmic lint was working, and on a scale far beyond their most optimistic projections. But the victory was short-lived. As quickly as the reports of success had come in, new, alarming messages began to arrive. This is the TSS horizon. The Void Heralds are adapting. They're consuming the lint. Mayday, mayday. Enemy ships in Sector 7 are using the lint to boost their power outputs. We're being overrun. Dr. Chen felt her heart sink. They had anticipated that the Void Heralds might find a way to counteract the cosmic lint, but not that they would find a way to use it against them. Supreme Commander Sixlith's voice cut through the chaos. All ships fall back to secondary positions. Cease lint deployment immediately. As the Galactic fleet retreated, the full scope of the disaster became clear. While the cosmic lint had initially crippled many Void Herald ships, the enemies had quickly adapted. Now, they were absorbing the lint, using its unique properties to enhance their own technology. In the aftermath of the failed offensive, the mood on the stellar concordance was grim. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, broadcast across secure channels to all member worlds. Xylos, its skin a dull gray of despair, addressed the assembly. We have suffered a significant setback. The enemy has turned our greatest weapon against us. We must now consider. The Zarquin ambassador was cut off by a comm alert. Priority message from Earth, an aide announced. Dr. Chen felt all eyes turn to her. With a nod from Xylos, she accepted the transmission. The holographic form of Dr. Aisha Patel, Earth's leading genotechnologist, and coincidentally, Jaish's sister, flickered into view. Galactic Council, esteemed colleagues, Dr. Aisha Patel began, her voice tinged with excitement despite the dire circumstances. We've been analyzing the data from the battle. We believe we found a way to not only neutralize the Void Herald's adaptation, but to use it against them. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Vralkar chittered skeptically. Another human solution. Have we not learned the dangers of such hasty methods? But Silos raised a hand for silence. Proceed, Dr. Patel. What is your proposal? What followed was a rapid-fire explanation that left even the most advanced alien scientists struggling to keep up. Dr. Aisha Patel, building on her brother's original idea, proposed a modification to the cosmic lint. This new version would appear identical to the original but contain a hidden component, a kind of molecular Trojan horse. When the Void Heralds absorbed this modified lint, Aisha explained, her eyes shining with the thrill of discovery, it will trigger a cascading reaction in their systems. The very process they use to enhance their power will become their undoing. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some expressing hope, others voicing doubts. Dr. Chen watched as Jaish listened to his sister's proposal, his expression morphing from confusion to understanding to awe. It could work, Jaish said, his voice barely above a whisper. Then louder, it could work. Supreme Commander Sixlith's crystalline form pulsed rapidly, a sign of intense computation. The theory is sound, but the practical application. We would need to recall all deployed cosmic lint, modify our entire production process, and redeploy in a matter of days. The logistical challenges are enormous. And if we do nothing, Dr. Chen countered, the Void Heralds will overrun us within weeks. We must try. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, desperation won out over caution. The order was given. All resources were to be devoted to producing this new, modified cosmic lint. What followed was a frenzy of activity that spread across the galaxy. Production facilities worked around the clock, ships were recalled and refitted, and every available scientist was pulled into the effort to perfect the new formula. Through it all, the Void Heralds continued their advance. Worlds fell, fleets were scattered, and the territory controlled by the Galactic Council shrank day by day. It was a race against time, with the fate of all sentient life hanging in the balance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was in reality less than 2 weeks, they were ready. The new cosmic lint, dubbed Trojan dust by some wit in the Earth contingent, was loaded onto every ship capable of deploying it. The plan was audacious. Instead of a coordinated attack, individual ships and small squadrons would make hit-and-run attacks, deploying small amounts of the Trojan dust and then quickly retreating. The goal was to make the Void Heralds believe they were facing scattered, desperate resistance, encouraging them to absorb the seemingly harmless lint. Dr. Chen found herself back aboard the ESS Curiosity, which had been chosen to lead one of these strike teams. Captain Rodriguez, her face etched with determination, addressed the crew before they departed. "We've come a long way since we first stumbled into this war," she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "We were dismissed as primitives, our ideas called stupid. But those stupid ideas have brought us to this moment. Now we have a chance to end this threat once and for all. Whatever happens, know that every sentient being in this galaxy will remember your courage." As the Curiosity and its squadron dropped out of FTL near a Void Herald fleet, Dr. Chen felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. "Deploy the Trojan dust," Captain Rodriguez ordered, her voice steady. The familiar shimmering clouds spread out from the ships. Almost immediately, the Void Herald vessels began to react, moving to intercept and absorb the lint. "It's working," Jayesh breathed, watching the sensor readings. "They're taking it in. All ships, fall back," Rodriguez commanded. "Let's hope they take the bait." For 3 agonizing days, reports trickled in from across the galaxy. Strike teams deployed their payloads and retreated, all while the Void Heralds pressed their advantage, seemingly growing stronger with each encounter. But on the 4th day, everything changed. It started with a single ship, a massive Void Herald dreadnought that had been absorbing Trojan dust for days. In the middle of an attack on a council outpost, it suddenly went dark. Then, in a spectacular flash, it exploded from within, the cascade reaction tearing it apart. Similar reports began pouring in from all sectors. Void Herald ships were failing catastrophically, their enhanced systems turning against them in a chain reaction of destruction. The galactic comm channels, so recently filled with distress calls and reports of defeat, now echoed with cries of victory and disbelief. Aboard the Curiosity, the crew watched in awe as the seemingly invincible Void Herald fleet crumbled before their eyes. Dr. Chen felt tears streaming down her face. Tears of relief, of joy, and of sorrow for all that had been lost to reach this point. In the days that followed, the full extent of their victory became clear. The Void Heralds, their technology turned against them, were in full retreat. Those ships that had not been destroyed were limping back towards the unknown regions from which they had first emerged. As the galactic community began the long process of rebuilding, there was a palpable shift in how humanity was perceived. The species that had been seen as primitive upstarts just years before were now hailed as saviors. Earth's stupid weapons, the original cosmic lint, and the Trojan dust that followed, had turned the tide of a war that by all rights they should have been powerless to effect. In a ceremony broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, the Galactic Council formally recognized humanity's contribution. Earth was granted not just full membership in the Council, but a leadership role in shaping the post-war galaxy. As Dr. Chen stood on the podium beside Jayesh, watching as representatives from 100 worlds cheered for them, she felt a mix of pride and trepidation. Humanity had proven itself on a galactic stage, but at what cost? And what challenges would they face now that they were viewed not as newcomers to be tutored, but as leaders to be emulated? These were questions for another day. For now, as she looked out at the sea of alien faces, some familiar, some still strange to her eyes, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what they had accomplished. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged victorious. They had saved not just themselves, but an entire galaxy. And they had done it not with overwhelming force or advanced technology, but with creativity, adaptability, and ideas just stupid enough to work. As the ceremony concluded and the assembled beings began to disperse, Dr. Chen overheard a conversation between two alien diplomats. "I still don't understand how their minds work," one was saying. "To look at a galaxy-threatening enemy and think, 'Ah yes, let's defeat them with glorified space dust.' It's brilliant," the other suggested. "I was going to say insane, but I suppose, in this case, they're one and the same." Dr. Chen smiled to herself. Perhaps that was humanity's greatest strength, the ability to walk the fine line between brilliance and insanity, to find solutions where others saw only problems. As she prepared to return to the curiosity for the journey home, she couldn't help but wonder, what impossible problem would humanity solve next, and how many aliens would they confound in the process? Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same, and humanity, for better or worse, would be at the center of it all. Victory and a new galactic order. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council headquarters buzzed with an energy unlike anything seen in its long history. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy had gathered for an unprecedented event: the ratification of the Post-Void Accords, a set of agreements that would reshape galactic society in the wake of the war against the Void Heralds. At the center of it all stood Dr. Samantha Chen and Jayesh Patel, the unlikely heroes whose stupid ideas had turned the tide of the war. They were flanked by delegates from Earth, a sight that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago, when humanity was still seen as a primitive probationary species. Silos, the Zarquin ambassador who had first welcomed humanity to the galactic stage, addressed the assembly. Its skin shimmered with a complex pattern of colors that the translation software interpreted as a mix of hope, trepidation, and resolve. "Esteemed colleagues," Tylos began, "we stand at a crossroads. The threat of the Void Heralds has been neutralized, but at great cost. Entire civilizations have been lost, worlds left barren, and the very fabric of our society tested to its limits. As we rebuild, we must ask ourselves, what kind of galaxy do we wish to create?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. It was Vralkar, once one of the staunchest critics of human involvement in galactic affairs, who spoke next. "We cannot ignore the lessons of this conflict," the insectoid being chittered. "Our advanced technology, our centuries of accumulated knowledge, these were not enough to save us. It was the unconventional thinking of our newest members that provided the key to our survival." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Dr. Chen felt a swell of pride, tempered by the weighty responsibility that now rested on humanity's shoulders. The discussions that followed were intense, often heated. At stake was nothing less than the future direction of galactic civilization. Some argued for a more centralized power structure, believing that a unified galaxy would be better prepared to face future threats. Others advocated for greater autonomy for individual worlds and species, fearing that too much centralization would stifle the very diversity that had proven so crucial in the war. Through it all, the Earth delegation found itself in the unfamiliar position of mediator and visionary. Drawing on humanity's long, often painful history of conflict and reconciliation, they proposed a middle path: a galactic federation that would provide collective security and facilitate cooperation, while still respecting the autonomy and unique cultures of its member species. "We must learn from each other," Dr. Chen argued passionately. "The Void Heralds were defeated not by any one species or technology, but by our collective strengths: a Zarquin energy matrix, Meleth quantum computers, Vrolkar bioengineering, and yes, human ingenuity. All these played a part in our victory. As the debates raged on, a new galactic order began to take shape. The post-void Accords established a framework for greater technological and cultural exchange between species. Trade routes were redrawn, research initiatives launched, and a comprehensive plan for rebuilding devastated worlds was put into motion. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the various species of the galaxy viewed each other and themselves. The rigid hierarchies and assumptions of superiority that had defined galactic politics for millennia were crumbling. In their place, a new appreciation for diversity and unconventional thinking was taking root. Nowhere was this change more evident than in the attitudes toward Earth and its people. Humans, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, were now sought after as advisors, scientists, and problem solvers. The term human thinking entered the galactic lexicon, used to describe approaches that were unconventional, adaptable, and often seemingly illogical until they produced spectacular results. Yet with this new respect came new challenges. As Dr. Chen and Jaish prepared to return to Earth after the ratification of the Accords, they found themselves confronted by a delegation of young aliens from various species. "We want to learn to think like humans," a young Zarquin declared, its skin flickering with earnest enthusiasm. "Teach us how to have stupid ideas that save galaxies." Jaish looked bewildered, but Dr. Chen smiled gently. "I'm not sure it's something that can be taught," she said. "But I can tell you this: embrace your curiosity, question everything, and don't be afraid to suggest ideas that others might laugh at. Sometimes, the most unlikely solutions are the ones that work." As they boarded their ship for the journey home, Dr. Chen and Jaish reflected on the enormous changes they had witnessed and helped bring about. "Do you ever wonder," Jaish asked quietly, "if we did the right thing? We've changed the course of galactic history. What if we've set something in motion that we can't control?" Dr. Chen understood his concern. The responsibility was indeed enormous. "We didn't ask for this role," she said after a moment's thought. "But now that it's ours, we have to rise to the challenge. Humanity has been given an opportunity to help shape a better galaxy. We have to try our best to get it right." The return to Earth was marked by celebration, but also by a sense of profound change. Humanity had dreamed of the stars for centuries, imagining their place in a grand cosmic civilization. Now that dream was a reality, but it was far different and far more complex than anyone had envisioned. In the years that followed, Earth became a hub of galactic activity. Alien exchange students filled universities, eager to learn human thinking. Human artists, musicians, and chefs found enthusiastic audiences on distant worlds, their works appreciated for their novelty and emotional resonance. Earth's long history of overcoming adversity and adapting to challenges became a subject of intense study across the galaxy. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some humans struggled with the rapid pace of change, feeling that their world was being overrun by alien influences. Others worried that humanity might lose sight of its own development, becoming too focused on its new galactic role. There were diplomatic incidents, cultural misunderstandings, and moments of tension that threatened to undo the progress that had been made. But each time, the spirit of cooperation that had emerged during the war reasserted itself. Slowly but surely, a new galactic culture was emerging, one that valued diversity, creativity, and the courage to propose stupid ideas. 5 years after the ratification of the post-void Accords, Dr. Chen found herself back in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. This time, she was there to present humanity's most ambitious proposal yet, a galaxy-wide initiative to explore the unknown regions beyond the borders of known space. "We defeated the Void Heralds," she told the assembled delegates, "but we still don't know where they came from or why they attacked. There may be other threats out there, or opportunities we can't yet imagine. We propose a joint expedition, drawing on the strengths of all our peoples, to push back the boundaries of our knowledge." The proposal was met with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The memory of the Void Heralds was still fresh, and the idea of actively seeking out new, potentially hostile civilizations gave many pause. But in the end, the human spirit of exploration proved contagious. As the vote to approve the initiative was tallied, Dr. Chen felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Xylos, the Zarquin ambassador who had been with her since humanity's first steps into galactic society. "You know," Xylos said, its skin rippling with what Chen had learned to recognize as wry amusement. "There was a time when I thought introducing humanity to the galactic community was the biggest mistake of my career. Now, I can't imagine what we'd do without you." Chen laughed. "We do have a habit of shaking things up, don't we?" "Indeed," Xylos agreed. "I've been studying your history. This reminds me of something one of your ancient philosophers said. Plato, I believe. Necessity is the mother of invention. You humans have a gift for finding inventive solutions when faced with necessity. We just might need that gift again," Chen said, her tone growing serious. "Who knows what we'll find out there in the unknown regions?" Xylos's skin shifted to a deeper, more reflective hue. "Whatever it is, I'm glad we'll face it together. Your people have taught us all that the universe is full of possibilities we had never imagined. Perhaps out there in the unknown, we'll find new, stupid ideas that will change everything again." As the final votes were tallied and the initiative was approved, Dr. Chen looked out over the assembly. She saw faces and other sensory organs from 100 different species, all united in a common purpose. It was a far cry from the fractious, hierarchical galaxy she had first encountered years ago. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subservient latecomers, but as catalysts for change and growth. Their stupid ideas had saved the galaxy once. What new wonders or challenges would they spark as they ventured into the unknown? As the chamber erupted in cheers and the equivalent of applause from various species, Dr. Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet pride. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, and the greatest adventures and stupidest, most brilliant ideas were yet to come. The galaxy would never be the same, and that, she reflected, was probably a very good thing indeed.